Assassin's Creed 3 is, in my opinion, the most underrated AC game. I think a lot of other games in the series also get unappreciated, such as AC Rogue or AC Revelations, but I think AC3 is the most underrated entry, and it's also my favorite entry in the series. So with AC3 being nearly 11 years old, I thought it'd be fun to look back at it with a good old retrospective. Following the release of Assassin's Creed 2, a group of senior devs at Ubisoft would start work on the next mainline entry to the AC franchise. However, a large portion of the devs started work on an AC2 spin-off by the name of Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. When Ubisoft first revealed the game in 2010, there was quite a bit of confusion within the community because according to the developers, Brotherhood was not an Assassin's Creed 3. With Assassin's Creed 3 starting development in early 2010, then releasing in late 2012 means it had a development time of nearly 3 years. That means that AC3 is up there for the longest development cycle in the history of the franchise. So in short, a portion of Ubisoft worked on AC Brotherhood and AC Revelations, while a smaller group that got progressively bigger worked on Assassin's Creed 3. Well, let's see if all that development time paid off. Easily the most recognizable aspect of Assassin's Creed is the parkour. The Ezio trilogy had some great parkour, so Ubisoft had some very tough competition. So you might be thinking, how did they handle this? Trees. Well, more specifically, nature and interiors. Assassin's Creed 3 added a few new elements to the parkour, one of these being interiors. There was quite a few interiors you could run through. Sadly, you couldn't freely move around in these interiors. There was a scripted animation for both sides of the interior, and that would play whenever you went through one. In all of the prior AC games, if you tried to parkour up or through a tree, you couldn't, but that's exactly what changed in AC3. Now you could parkour through trees, up trees, down trees, and really anything you could come up with. It made more sense to have parkourable nature as AC3 is set in the east coast of North America. Along with that, you also play as a half-native man by the name of Radun Hagedon. Sorry if I butchered that, which later changes his name to Connor, and I'll be calling him that because of Radun Hagedon. Pretty obvious reasons. A lot of people consider AC Unity's free running system as the best one in the whole series. I mean, just look at this clip right here. But the issue is the accessibility. Just look how the free running looks when I do it. Yeah, you could just call that a skill issue, but when your parkour system only looks or feels cool for people who are really good at it, you've got a bit of a problem. That's what I think AC3 does really well, and it's also what Unity does badly. Anyways, let's move on to the next topic. As I said, Assassin's Creed 3 is set in the east coast of North America, more specifically New York, Boston, Davenport, and the frontier. The American East Coast doesn't seem like a very good Assassin's Creed setting, especially after Rome and Constantinople, but somehow Ubisoft managed to make an intriguing setting. The wilderness feels perfectly empty but not devoid of life. The cities of AC3 feel like parkour playgrounds, with there being so many flagpoles, signs, crates, and so many other things, making for nearly unlimited parkour opportunities. However, I prefer New York over Boston. The two cities don't have a lot of variety. With that I mean it's very hard to tell in what kind of area you are. There's not really any difference between a poor or a rich area. There's also not a lot of variety in terms of NPC behavior. You can often hear NPCs saying the same voice lines over and over again, or the constant drumming of the enemy patrols. Overall, the setting of Assassin's Creed 3 was pretty good, and it fit the game very well. But the cities were largely improved in AC4 Black Flag, with places like Havana or Kingston feeling much more alive and real than New York or Boston. The gameplay of Assassin's Creed 3 is easily the best aspect of the game. There's a lot to talk about here, so let's just start with the combat. AC3 has my favorite combat system in the entire series, and in a lot of cases, I prefer to do combat instead of stealth. I'm not saying that the stealth in the game is bad, it's just that the combat is so fluid and overall good. The Ezio trilogy was set in the Italian Renaissance, and the first game was set in 1191 during the Third Crusade. But now it's 18th century colonial America, and the enemies are armed with muskets. So you have to avoid gunshots. How do you do that? Well, obviously in a really cool way. human shields. There's so much substance to the AC3 combat system. A weak point of AC3's combat system is the brute enemies. This is a weak point in really any AC game. I understand you need to have a type of enemy that is more powerful and harder to kill, but do they always just have to be so obnoxious, or just give them a more unique design and enemy AI? It's always just a fat or big guy with a woodcutting axe that does a lot of damage and is unblockable. Assassin's Creed 3 is the AC game that walked so Black Flag could run. With that I mean AC3 was the first AC game with naval combat. Although it wasn't very fleshed out, I still enjoyed it. Assassin's Creed 3's side content is there, I guess. It's not very compelling though. Homestead missions are pretty mid. Oh yeah, the homestead. So basically it's this house that's practically falling apart and you can upgrade it. I never really engaged with it much as it didn't feel worth it. That's the issue with pretty much all of the side content. Why would Connor start a riot, upgrade his house, help some random person, or go out sailing when he's trying to stop the Templars from burning his home village down? It's kind of suffering from Fallout 4 syndrome. In Fallout 4's intro, your significant other gets shot and your baby gets stolen. So when you wake up, the only thing you want to do is find your son. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to stop and just build a cute little village. But in games like Breath of the Wild, does side content really well, because yes, Princess Zelda is in danger, but everything else you do helps the end goal of saving her. But starting a riot does not help the end goal of taking down the Templars. I also want to quickly mention the horrid horse system. It's just bad. The animations suck and it feels straight out of Star Stable. You know, that's all I have to say about the horse. Assassin's Creed 3 had some very tough competition in terms of the story. The story of the Ezio trilogy was amazing and people absolutely loved Ezio Auditore da Firenze. So it's safe to say it would be pretty hard to top what they had done with the Ezio trilogy. And spoiler warning, they did not top it. But that does not mean they made a bad story or a bad character. Connor Kenway often gets hate, and the overall story of the game is often considered a little mid. But I personally think the story of the game is pretty good. I'm not going to go in depth on the story, but overall I can agree with the statement that AC3's story is a tad bit mid. Because it kind of is. There's certain pretty emotional moments, like the death of Charles Lee. Now, this is one of the best cutscenes in the entire franchise. Not a single word is said, but this cutscene has so much emotion. Yeah, so there are some good moments in the story, but overall, it's maybe like a 6 or 7 out of 10. AC3 suffers from Fallout 4 syndrome, but alongside that, it also suffers from Forrest Gump syndrome, because they squeeze Connor into so many historical events and just expect it to work. For example, Paul Revere's ride. Instead of it being him riding around warning people, it's Connor riding while Paul gives vague directions. Or the Boston Tea Party. Yeah, it was actually Connor dumping the tea. Something I do not agree with, however, is that Connor is a bad character. Although I don't think he's as good as Ezio, he is not bad, just a little misunderstood. Yeah, he gets painted as a dumbass quite a lot, but his kind of antisocial nature isn't strange when you remember that Connor comes from a very different environment, and he also has quite a lot of trauma with things such as watching his mother die, watching his mentor Achilles die, or having to kill his childhood best friend. Assassin's Creed 3 isn't perfect. It has many flaws, but I still think it's the most underrated game in the series. Connor could have highly benefited from a spin-off game where he would have had a little bit more character development, because I feel like he had a lot of potential. I still think AC3 has the best free running, as it's so fluid and accessible. The combat is so good, it feels so fleshed out, and the animations are done beautifully. The story was pretty weak, but it had its moments. Overall, Assassin's Creed 3 is my favorite Assassin's Creed game. Anyways, that's gonna have to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did and you want to see more like it, you know what to click. Or don't, I can't really control you. So with that being said, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'm out.